The Green River Phantom. The Green River winds like a serpent through the heart of Washington state. By day, it's serene, even beautiful. But by night, its shadows hold secrets, terrible, unspeakable secrets. It was a foggy evening along the Green River. The sound of flowing water filled the air. It was foggy, shrouding everything in an eerie stillness. A lone woman walks along the riverbank, her flashlight casting long, wavering shadows across the bank, with a faint rustling sound coming from the underbrush. She stops, her flashlight catching something pale protruding from the mud. She hesitates, then crouches down, brushing away the dirt. Her hand recoils as she realizes what she's found, a hand, bloated and gray. Gasping, she says, "Oh my God! No!" Suddenly, the clear, crisp sound of a snapping twig causes her to whip around, flashlight trembling in her hand. She scans the dark trees. Nothing moves, but the silence is oppressive, as though the forest itself is watching. She wasn't the first to stumble upon the river's grim offerings, and she wouldn't be the last. Detective Harper, a weary man in his late 40s, stands by the riverbank. Police lights flash in the background as officers cordon off the area. There is a body laying on the ground. It is visible. A young woman, her eyes staring blankly at the sky, her neck bearing deep, jagged cuts. An officer walks up to Detective Harper. "Found this morning, sir. Same MO as the others." The Green River Phantom strikes again. Harper says sarcastically. He lights a cigarette, the flame illuminating his haggard face. He exhales slowly, watching the smoke blend with the fog. A faint smirk crosses his lips, but it's gone as quickly as it came. With urgency in his voice, he says, "Tell me we've got something, anything." Nervously, the officer says, "Nothing concrete, sir. No witnesses, no usable prints, just this." The officer hesitates before holding up a small, muddy trinket, a locket. Harper takes it, his gloved hands snapping it open. Inside is a photo of a smiling girl. The grin on the photo doesn't match the grim scene. Someone's daughter, another family shattered. He studies the locket for a long moment, his thumb brushing the edge of the picture. "Any ID yet?" "Not yet, detective. She's not in the database. We're running it now, but it's going to take time." Harper frowns, his eyes scanning the dark trees along the riverbank. The mist curls through the branches like ghostly fingers, and he feels a chill deep down in his bones, and it has nothing to do with the weather. Time, officer. It's always about time. And it seems time is always against us. He mutters under his breath, shifting uncomfortably and breaking Harper's thoughts. "Sir, there's more. The coroner found markings, symbols carved into her back. They were similar to the last victim." "What do you think it means, sir?" Harper's jaw tightened, his cigarette burning dangerously close to the filter. "Show me." They walked toward the body, now covered with a tarp. Harper crouches down, pulling the tarp back to reveal the woman's back. Deep, precise carvings formed an eerie, ritualistic pattern. He stared at it, his mind racing. "He's escalating, getting bolder, more deliberate," Harper says in an urgent tone. "You think he is trying to send a message, sir?" "Not a message, a masterpiece. To him, this isn't murder, it's art." Harper stands, his fists clenched. He tosses the burnt-out cigarette to the ground, grinding it under his heel. The sound of the river somehow seemed louder, almost mocking, as if it were mocking him. Turning back to the officer, his voice low but firm. "We need to find him before he finishes his masterpiece. Double the patrols, get forensics on every inch of this place, and call me the second you get an ID on her." "Yes, sir. Understood." Nodding his head, the officer moved off. Harper remained by the river, staring at the water. He pulls another cigarette from his pocket, but doesn't light it, just turning it between his fingers as the mist thickens. For Harper, the Green River was no longer just a crime scene. It was a battlefield, and somewhere in the shadows, the Phantom was watching, waiting for his next move. For months, the Green River Phantom had eluded capture, leaving a trail of bodies and fear. Regardless, Harper was determined to end his reign of terror. The morning light streamed into Harper's dimly lit office, casting light upon all of the newspaper clippings that covered his walls, a map of the river pinned to a board dotted with red pins marking the different locations of the victims. A knock at the door startles Harper. A young woman, Claire, enters, her face pale and eyes wide with fear. "Detective Harper," she says, I think I know who the Phantom is." Leaning forward, his eyes narrowing. "You'd better start talking." Claire's hands shake as she clutches a small notebook. She places it on Harper's desk and flips it open to a page filled with sketches of symbols, the same ones found on the victims. "I've seen these before. My neighbor, he draws them. I didn't think much of it at first, but he keeps odd hours, and I've seen him by the river at night. What's his name?" "Claire. James Kent. He lives in the old house on Mill Road, the one no one ever visits." Harper grabs his coat and gun. "Stay here and lock the door. If anything happens, call for backup." Harper drives to Mill Road. The road felt endless, each turn shrouded in darkness, each shadow a potential harbinger of doom. Harper's mind raced with possibilities. What if Claire was wrong? What if this was another dead end? Or worse, what if it wasn't? The trees closed in tighter as Harper approached, their gnarled branches clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. The house finally emerged, a hulking silhouette against the night. It seemed to breathe, exhaling an air of dread. He parked down the road and continued on foot, his gun tightly gripped in his hand and his senses alert. The house loomed like a tombstone for lost innocence, its windows black as the abyss. Harper's hand gripped his gun. The weight of it was familiar, comforting, but not enough to steady his pulse. It was eerily quiet, as if no one was home. The lights dim and curtains drawn over the windows. The floorboards creaked under his weight as he stepped inside. Inside, the house was a labyrinth of horror. Each step deeper was a step closer to the truth, or to something Harper wasn't ready to face. The air was thick with the stench of decay. Flies buzzed around a makeshift table covered in blood-stained tools. The tools on the table glinted in the dim light, each one telling its own story of pain and suffering. Then a sudden noise, a scraping sound, makes Harper spin around, his heart pounding. A shadow moved in the corner and the lights went out. In the pitch-black void, the boundaries between hunter and prey blurred. Harper's breath came shallow, each exhale a beacon in the suffocating silence. The scrape came again, closer this time, like a predator circling its catch. Kent's voice breaks the silence, low and mocking. "You should have stayed away, detective." The tension snaps as a sudden crash echoes. Harper fires blindly into the darkness, his breath ragged. The scraping stops, replaced by a low, chilling laugh. Harper freezes, his gun gripped tightly in his hands. "Detective Harper, you've come to see my work up close. How flattering." Harper's voice is steady, but his body is tense. "You're done, Kent. This ends tonight." A match flares in the darkness, briefly illuminating Kent's face, a pale, grinning specter. He lights a lantern, casting flickering shadows across the room. "Ends? No, detective. This is only the beginning." Kent lunges at Harper, a blade flashing in the lantern light. Harper fires, but the shot goes wide, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. They grapple, the lantern crashing to the ground and plunging the room into chaos. The struggle is fierce, brutal. Harper lands a blow, but Kent is relentless, his eyes burning with a manic intensity. Blood spatters the walls as the fight rages on. It was a battle of wills, of survival. Harper fought not just for his life, but for every victim who had fallen to Kent's madness. And in the end, only one would walk away. Kane gains the upper hand, slamming Harper into a wall. Harper collapses, blood streaming from his forehead. Kinnat stands over him, triumphant. "You were so close, detective, but the river decides who wins." Kinnat disappears into the shadows, leaving Harper battered and barely conscious. Sirens wail in the distance as Harper struggles to stay awake. Months later, Harper, now partially recovered, sits at his desk. His face is gaunt and his left hand trembles slightly as he studies a map of the Green River, its surface now marked with fresh locations. He had spent weeks recovering, his body mending while his mind grew sharper. For him, this wasn't just a manhunt, it was destiny. He wanted to go revisit the scene of the fight and see if he could come up with any more clues that maybe the other officers hadn't noticed that night. So he packed up his things and started towards Mill Road. He has no idea what is waiting for him when he gets there. "Oh, Anna, Kent," says hissing from his mouth and tapping her gagged and bound body with the blade of his knife. Anna, trying to scream and work one of her hands free, frantically struggles with the ropes, pulling against them. She manages to get one free just as Kent turned away from her. Quietly, she searched the table next to her hand for something. Anything she could use to help her escape his basement, and just as he started to turn back, she felt it. It was a scalpel. She quickly grabbed it, hoping Kent wouldn't notice. With an unnerving arrogance, Kent looks at her and says, "You think you are going somewhere," hovering above her inches from her face. He hadn't noticed, she thought. "Just be brave," she said to herself as she quickly jammed the blade into Kent's right eye. Kent stumbled backwards. Anna fought to get the ropes untied. Just as she did, Kent jumped at her, almost knocking her off balance. She screamed and clawed at Kent's face, fighting for her life. In the melee, Kent had stumbled backwards and hit his head on the corner of the table, knocking him out cold. She bolted out the door into the pitch-black night and ran fleeing into the forest, her screams piercing the night air. Harper, just about to the house on Millard, slams on his brakes as Anna stumbles into the road. She collapses and Harper rushes out of his car. "Miss, are you hurt? Who did this to you?" Anna, sobbing and bloodied, grabs his arm. The house. The monster. "He's still there." Harper radios for backup, but knows he can't wait. He runs into the house immediately to find Kent. Inside, Kent is frantic, realizing his prey had escaped. Harper bursts in, gun drawn. Kent lunged at him with his blade. Harper, blocking with a piece of the broken table, wrestles Kent to the ground, but not before taking the blade deep into his shoulder. Gasping, he yells, "No, not this time," and pulls his pistol from its holster. Bang! The shot rang out as Kent stumbled towards the wall, then collapsing into a pool of blood next to his toolbox. A sick smile on his face as he weakly mutters his last words. The river never forgets. Harper, bloodied but standing, whispers back, "It will forget about you." Exhausted, he radios for help, making sure they send an ambulance for Anna. Lucky to be alive, she rushes to Harper when he came out of the house, burying her face in his chest. "It's going to be okay," he says. "It's over." As the sirens grew closer and closer, Harper held Anna, reassuring her that the nightmare was over. Not only for her, but for the rest of Kent's victims as well.
Thanks for tuning into the Shiver Files. Your support means the world to us. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a chilling new upload. We've got more spine-tingling stories coming your way, so stay tuned. See you in the next one, and until then, stay curious, stay brave, and stay shivering.